Good morning, beloved community. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. And happy soon-to-be Juneteenth. Happy Pride ongoing. Happy Resistance. There is a lot of darkness in our times, but there's also so much to celebrate, and it's so important that we celebrate in these times. And one of the things that we are celebrating today is the successful conclusion of a very important chapter in the life of this religious community. So thank you for being here today to celebrate with us. I am the Reverend Tovis Page.
And I'm Reverend Terri Echelbarger, and I use she/her pronouns.
And I use she/her pronouns as well. And this is
our last day as your co-ministers.
Well cued, well cued. Over the past 2 years, we have reflected upon the questions that we sang this morning. Where do we come from? Who are we? I like who better than what. Who are we? Where are we going? These are fundamental, universal questions for human beings, fundamental to religion, and fundamental also for periods of intentional transition, like the one that you have been on for the past 2 years, several years really, as a congregation. And it has been such an honor and a joy for Rev Terri and me to journey with you through a time of collective discernment, growth, and decision-making. You have come so far in such a short time. And while there is work yet to do, there is also so much that is in bud. So while we are sad to say goodbye today, we are also excited for your future and for the shared ministry that you will create together with Rev Laura Thompson when she comes on August 1st.
Our call to worship this morning is by Denise Levertov, who dedicated this poem to the memory of Karen Silkwood and Elliot Gralla. It's called Beginners. From too much love of living, hope and desire set free, even the weariest river winds somewhere to the sea. But we have only yet begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in the bud. How could we desire failure? We've only just begun. To imagine justice and mercy, only just begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower, not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot be hastening in its sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt to all that is innocent. Not yet, not yet. There's too much broken that must be mended. Too much hurt we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We've only just begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in the bud. Come, my friends, let us worship together.
Now I'd like to invite the two T's to join me up here. Two other T's. Well, Terri and Tricia, it is time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Those 20 months just flew by.
20 months? I've been here a lot longer than that.
I've been here longer than both of you since 1997. We've had 3 settled ministers, 3 interim ministers since then, and they've all been pretty different from one another. Remind us how you both came to UUSM.
Well, I was in my second semester at Star King School for the Ministry, and it was 2017. And one of my mentors pulled me aside after class and said, there's a UU congregation near you in San Mateo that's looking for an intern. And although it was early in my ministerial formation, I applied, and I started as your intern minister in 2017 and served you for 10 months under the supervision of Rev Ben Myers. So, beloved community, we have been shaping each other for 8 years now.
Fast forward to 2021, COVID times. My first memory of the COVID years at UUSM was getting a phone call from Sheila Sandow asking if I would chair the auction that had gone dormant and figure out a way to bring it back online. I said only if someone with complementary skills would do it with me. She had already been thinking about Becky Howland, and within 24 hours, we were a team. The All Together Now auction was born. My second COVID times memory was when we had our first in-person hybrid service on the courtyard. Does anybody remember that? It was absolutely amazing. After being isolated at home for a year and a half. It was September 2021, and the turnout was amazing. 50 people in person, another 50 people online on Zoom. Yes, there were lots of plexiglass, too much, and the sound was quite fuzzy, but the joy and delight of seeing each other was palpable. Another 6 months passed with Zoom-only and occasional hybrid services before we moved into the social hall for worship in March 2022. John Bertolet, Karen Zentner, and others transformed this space from kind of dirty and cluttered to cozy and beloved in its own way. At this point, we were on the cusp of more transitions than we could have imagined.
Oh, yeah, so true. I'd known of UUSM for a long time because I interfaced each year with Carol and Susan at the Pride events, and I knew Ben a little bit from the Peninsula clergy cohort. Ben asked me to guest preach once, and so I did on transgender issues, and it was when you were packed into the social hall. That Sunday turned out to be Ben's next to last Sunday with you, to my surprise. And at the time, I had no idea what was in store for me.
After Rev Ben's abrupt departure, we lost other staff and also some members. Many lay folks jumped in to keep the church running, and that includes Becky Howland and me moving from All Together Now auction chairs to president and vice president of the board. With that self-aggrandizing shout out, I want to say that we both have felt and continue to feel deeply, deeply appreciated for our contributions. Eventually, we hired Rev Stephanie Etzbach Dell as our pastoral care minister. Joel Chapman was wrapping up his tenure as our music director. We had no DRE. Our office manager wasn't working out. We were crammed into the aforementioned makeshift temporary worship space in the social hall, sometimes without heat, as the renovation project dragged on and on. Slides, please. Remember that?
In the midst of all this, I was invited back as a guest preacher. Actually, I was invited back to fill any capacity because you were pretty desperate at the time. But I agreed to only a couple of guest preaching gigs. And the first one that I came for, I arrived in November of 2022. I had not been back here in 4.5 years since I left as your intern. And I parked out on Ellsworth Street. And as I was getting out of my car, a giant palm frond, yes, kind of like that. Just like that, but way louder, way louder, landed on the roof of my car and made this huge whack, and it scared the living daylights out of me. And I'm not very superstitious, but I did think, is this a sign? Should I be getting back in my car and leaving? Well, if it was a sign, I didn't pay any attention to it because within a couple of months, I had agreed to be your GAP Minister for Worship with a 5-month contract while you search for an interim minister. And during that first 5 months in 2023, we got the worship committee up and running again pretty fast. And we had fun on Sundays, as you can hear from the kind of the fond little squeals looking at the pictures. We did have fun in Beck Hall. You even tolerated it when I started to change the order of service a little bit. Some of you didn't like it very much, but I promise we were only trying things and only experimenting, so you were willing to go along with that. Thank you, brave ones. I preached a lot about change also in those early months, which bugged some of you too, because you'd been through so much change, you didn't want to hear anything more about it. But it was necessary, and it still is necessary to talk about change, because life is change, change is life, and we are always in the process of turning. We also celebrated some milestones together during that gap time, my ordination at the UU Fellowship of Redwood City, and your return to this newly renovated space, so beautiful. And we had that special water communion in this space where we didn't have the chairs set up, and our children blessed the space with sunflowers and our gathered holy water. And we sang and sang and sang. I'll never forget that.
I'll never forget it either. It felt like a turning point on so many levels. We had two highly competent ministers, Rev. Stephanie and Rev. Tovis, and we were back in our beloved sanctuary enjoying our annual water communion service.
And more change was ahead. When you didn't match with an interim minister through the UUA process, I agreed to stay on for another year with an expanded part-time role as your worship and pastoral care minister.
Not long before that, although I'd never really considered serving a UU community, once the position was posted, a number of my friends, our mutual friends, pointed it out to me. A longtime UU friend who ministered in Reno, a friend who goes here, other ministers who knew you thought it would be a good place. And so I sent my resume, and you told me you were not accepting inquiries from non-UU ministers. Then your search through the UU process failed. Tovis and I had a connection via the Peninsula Clergy Network, and she had decided to stay on part-time, and piece by piece, things fell into place, and the rest is, well, history. And I made my way to be with you, to handle things Tovis couldn't handle. The search and transition teams, well, she could have handled it part-time. She couldn't handle it part-time. The search and transition teams discussed my title, and we made one up that would look good on my resume, Transitional Executive Minister.
Yes.
I remember after I joined you, Reverend Tovis designed a board retreat. I put names around the table with assigned seating just to see if you were really as anti-authority as I'd been told. And Tovis was concerned. She told me it was a bad idea, but I persisted. And several board members looked at each other as I entered the room and complained in whispers about what I'd done. They wanted to choose their own seats, and they forgave me. As part of that workshop, Tovis and I asked each board member to draw an organizational chart. And then the whole group walked around looking at each creation, and there was a lot of laughter because there was very little similarity between any of them. That's when I knew for sure this was going to be a bigger job than I'd imagined.
Oh, yes. I was totally embarrassed that I couldn't create a simple org chart that aligned with our reality. Eventually, I realized we might have room to grow and a few things to learn.
A good part of our work over the past 2 years was about transition, meaning the intentionally embracing change between seasons or between settled ministries. And that's what interim ministers are hired to do. And while we were not hired as interim ministers per se, we were excited to help you move meaningfully and intentionally through a period of uncertainty and change, helping you reflect on your past and assess your present so that you could more intentionally and meaningfully shape your future together. Rev. Terri came in with interim experience, and you paid for me to do a 9-month training in transitional ministry, which I was grateful for, and which Rev. Laura will also be doing. There is a growing recognition in our religious movement that all ministry is transitional ministry, so more and more of us are being trained to minister effectively during times of change. You had been through interim ministries before, some of which many of you remember as difficult. A number of you told us the UUA's transition process was just jumping through hoops. And you had already been through so many changes that many of you were ready to just stop talking about it and go back to normal as soon as possible. We heard things like, we don't need to look back, we just need to move ahead. Let's not focus on our problems, let's just move on. Yet side by side, the transition team and ourselves as part of it, we want to believe that we brought new meaning to that process, making it feel actually useful. You will be the ones that will determine that in the end. The transition team made a plan that included 5 focal points: history and heritage, congregational culture, shared ministry, developmental goals, and setting ourselves up for success.
The transitions process gave me so much hope for UUSM and its future. Over the course of my time here, I had not witnessed serious, thoughtful transition work or interim work. Rather, the interim work seemed more like putting out fires.
That first fall, we took time to look back, asking, where did we come from? Do you remember the history scroll? There it is. It was something you made during a prior interim period, and we pulled it out again to add dates and names to it. Tovis and I still laugh that you never put us on the scroll. You put all the other new staff, so hopefully, when you have to add names to it many years from now, you'll still remember us. Tovis preached about the presence of the past, and I preached about the importance of renovating our foundations. Jack did a series of heritage interviews with long-term members that Sheila transcribed word by word for posterity. Don't forget about these interviews. They're part of our history. They're valuable. We learned that questions and debates about your campus have always been with you, and that you're proud of our history with social action and religious education, that the ties of love and care run very deep here. And we laughed about all the special qualities and quirks that make you, a unique yet ever-evolving, beloved community.
We also explored congregational culture, what we do and why we do it. We have a slide. I preached about why culture matters, using the metaphor of an iceberg to differentiate between those aspects of culture that are above the surface, visible, that we know and acknowledge, and the far greater and more powerful aspects of culture that are unseen and unacknowledged. Unnamed assumptions, values, attitudes, and expectations. And we talked about if we want to understand ourselves as a community or make intentional change in our community, we have to understand the parts that are below the surface. That shape who we are and what we do, even if we're not aware of them. At the workshop that followed, we asked you to put stickers on those things from your mission, vision, and covenant that you felt you did well, and those that you know you weren't doing well. Many of you looked like we had lost our minds, remember that? When Terri asked you to line up and create a human continuum in response to a series of questions, but we wanted you to see each other. In that exercise, Terri and I shared our observations and asked you to place yourselves along continuums about how well the congregation engages conflict, the degree of discomfort with disorganization versus structure, the state of trust in congregational leadership, if you were adequately balanced between inward and outward-facing ministries. We asked you to see more clearly not just your unity, but the diversity of perspectives and experiences among you. The part of the worship service you love, somebody else hates that part. So how do we foster a culture where we embrace difference and diversity while sharing common values and a clear mission?
As a member of the transition team, I was so grateful for the leadership of Tovis and Terri as they worked closely with us to frame and implement a transitions plan. The culture work was one of my faves, the you don't know what you don't know thing. As time went by, I became aware of just how much I was learning. John Farrow, Diana Candie, and Joan Castman were initial members of the transition team and brought us all kinds of experience and wisdom. Later, Becky Howland and David Kramer joined us. This was a shared ministry experience that will remain with me and I hope will continue with the congregation.
In March, both Tovis and I preached about shared ministry. And that's how pivotal shared ministry really is. The covenantal relationship that asks both ministers and lay people to hold hands, ideally with every person using their gifts for the greater good of community. At the shared ministry workshop, we ask what we might need to do to realize a true shared ministry that's fruitful, and sustainable, and life-giving for all of us. How we might intentionally rebuild a trust that seemed a little frayed on the edges. And I believe together we've done some of that work. We also reminded you that an important step of preparing for a new minister search is to begin letting go of the old so that we're ready to embrace the new. So today we take another step in practicing, in learning to release so that we can soon embrace what lies ahead.
Having revisited some old hurts and areas of stuckness, we took time to intentionally let some things go. During a ritual of release and healing last May, we invited you to reflect on what you needed to release to move into the future together with more freedom, connection, and joy. Many of you shared from the heart. You listened deeply to one another, and you symbolically let go of things that may have been holding you back. We talked about how letting go is a process. It's not a once and done thing usually. It takes intention and practice. Whenever we find ourselves repeating old scripts or patterns that no longer serve us, we can pause, breathe, and remember our intentions to let go and try something new. So we hope you will continue to do that and support one another in doing that as you move forward. Then in June of last year, having explored your history, culture, and patterns of shared ministry, we turned toward the future. We were ready to consider what key areas of development you might want to focus on with your next minister.
Yes, our next work was around creating developmental goals that would serve us when searching for a new minister. We started with a sermon delivered by Rev Tovis and a facilitated workshop brainstorming about our future. The transition team took the recommendations and developed goals. These goals are ours, and ours alone. The ministers had no voice in crafting them. It's a community voice. This is an excerpt from a reflection that John Farrow delivered at the service last June. We've made progress in our transition work, but there is still work to do. Where do we want to go as a community? For example, do we want to be more sustainable, more multi-generational, more engaged with the larger community, more welcoming? And are there things we want less of? We need to identify our mission and a shared sense of a future as a community. Finding a long-term minister with a developmental emphasis will help us do the work to build that future. Then the search team was formed to find our next minister.
Well, for my time with you, I heard over and over again two strong messages. The first, we don't like organizational charts, and we like that each person can do it their own way. The second, I don't want to lead because every time I have to make it from scratch and nobody else tells you how to do anything. Well, in a diverse community, both can be true. I still don't have an organizational chart. But there is something about effective communication and not being afraid of just a little bit of organization where it'll serve you, where it sets you up for success. We talked, too, about the way visitors can move from visiting to be involved and how important it is to make it easy And now Jack has offered a list of the simplest ways to get involved and put them at the back of the door. Yay, Jack. Then we need to be mindful of the progression we use to invite others to be a deeper part. Hey, Tovis, you want to join the facility team?
I don't think so.
Hey, Tovis, I'm on the facilities team, and we can use an extra hand on Saturday, our work day. Are you available?
Sure.
Hey, Tovis, you've shown up for the last 2 Saturdays on our work days. Would you be interested in looking at other things our group does?
Hey, do you have a committee charter or something I can look at that would help me understand what you do?
As a matter of fact, I do.
At our workshop, the groups of UUSM were invited to create charters, which explains what a group does and is very handy when recruiting people to join you. And then you were invited to create covenants, which were agreements about how you work together to accomplish that charter. I told the transition team I really wasn't sure how this was going to go and if everybody would actually do them. But you know what? Every primary group did. Thank you. I won't get to finish this project with you. And from here, the board and Reverend Laura will need to decide the next steps. I want you to know we did similar processes with the staff, developing legally compliant job descriptions, doing reviews, and asking them as well. How can you improve and grow? And how can we better help you? How can we set you up for greater success?
I couldn't believe this actually worked. I can see now that it isn't just an exercise that the books say you should do. Rather, it will help each committee know what the other committees are doing. There's been confusion and overlap in the past. Also, it will give the board information it needs to govern effectively.
While we were here, we witnessed what a community can accomplish by engaging in long simmering background conflict, by talking to one another, by being open to one another, by being willing to engage.
We saw it when you voted to change the Jesus window, which you had done in years past, but you got stuck after the vote and never implemented the vote. But this time, you persisted in uncomfortable, honest conversations about the window, you voted, and then actually implemented the vote. You changed the window. Well, let's be honest, you allowed Terri and James May to implement it for you. That was huge progress, moving through long simmering conflict toward resolution. We saw it again more recently as you engaged in the discussion about the 314 property. There are times when talking a lot before a vote is important.
If there's conflict, talking to each other a lot before a vote is wise. Engagement versus avoidance about issues big and small is vital in any healthy community. It builds trust. They are being honest and transparent with each other. Secrecy can sometimes be harmful.
The outcome isn't always perfect for everyone. I mean, some of us are still uncomfortable with the shadow of a cross that's still visible up there.
You know, we couldn't find a perfect match for the glass that was created probably 50 years ago. But let me say this. Unitarian and Universalist forebears were seen as heretic Christians making a new way. You can't completely erase that either, any more than you can erase the ancestors in your own family tree whose actions and beliefs led them to do things we find very objectionable today. Yes, perhaps this cross is a skeleton in your closet. But no matter what you do, even you found the perfectly matched piece of glass for that part of the window, the shadow of Christianity will remain in this very building. However, the interpreters of the symbol can be you. So let it stand as a reminder that people died on crosses of all kinds. Martin Luther King Jr., Harvey Milk, slaves, for standing up for each other, for standing up for the least of these. Most strangers aren't even going to notice that shadow. But if you do, think of martyrs, of real martyrs fighting for real causes, for real reasons.
When you see the shadow of the cross, Think of the heretical UU forebears that made the way for us contemporary UUs with all our pluralism, bravely adapting what had come before them to serve evolving visions of a diverse and just world with love at the center. We don't need to erase our past to move forward. We choose what to hold onto and what to release, what to change and what to create anew as we continue turning and turning. This really is the heart of transitional ministry. It's the heart of any ministry, really, and of life itself, living a life of intention, choosing what to let go of and what to carry forward as we turn.
Lastly, yes, we're getting to the end. As you engage your new minister, we just want to remind you that Tovis and I have been two. Laura will be one. She has a right to her own boundaries, her life, and her values, so please be mindful of her as you engage your new co-ministry. And let's give another nod of recognition to the transition team. And thank you, Tricia, for being in conversation with us today. And for all of the rest of you that participated and invested yourself in community over the past couple of years.
Sometime around 700 BC, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu is said to have said, "Go to the people, live with them, learn from them, love them. Start with what they know. Build with what they have. But with the best leaders, when the work is done, the task accomplished, the people will say, 'We have done this ourselves.' And you have."
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Terri, Tovis, Tricia. That's 3 T's. I know a song with 3 T's that's perhaps fitting for this occasion. It's called Turn, Turn, Turn. And I think now is the perfect time that we can all sing it together.
To everything, turn, turn, turn.
There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven, and a time for every purpose under heaven.
As an intern minister and again as an ordained minister, I have learned so much with and from you, my friends. You have shaped me in so many ways, and I know that I have also shaped you. You will always be in my heart and in the ways that I minister, and I am grateful. This time around with you, I grew in my understanding of congregations as systems. We are interdependent in more ways than we realize. I also developed a profound appreciation for shared ministry. We all have different gifts and growing edges, different personalities and histories, different dancing styles, and I wish I danced like Terri, different perspectives and communication styles, and thank goodness for that. It would be pretty boring if we were all the same. There is no one-size-fits-all ministry, and there is no minister who can do it all, much less do it all alone. I not only loved having a co-minister with Rev Terri. Terri is awesome, as you know, but I relied on and loved ministering with so many of you also, and couldn't have done it without the team spirit here. We are a team of teams. In ministry, in life, there is no other way to thrive than together. Over the past 2.5 years with you, I also learned more about boundaries and sustainability in ministry and not taking myself so damn seriously. I'm still learning. I learned about prioritizing and delegating, when to lead and when to step back. I learned about moving at the speed of trust. And sometimes I learned by making mistakes. And thank you for clapping with me when I did make those, because that really helps to clap for our mistakes. Special thanks to the Committee on Ministry for supporting us in so many ways and for shouldering the somewhat burdensome task of doing my preliminary ministerial fellowship renewals. But the most precious thing for me of all is the sense of tending a truly sacred trust with all of you, to come alongside you through the thick and thin, the uncertainties and triumphs, the joy and grief, the frustrations and celebrations. It has been such an honor. Together, we have welcomed many new members. We have dedicated children and memorialized beloved dead. Thank you for placing your trust in me.
Just as you have grown and changed as a community and individuals this time, I have too. One of the things that I learned here is the gift of creating worship in conversation with worship associates. I'd never done that before. It's a lot more work, but it is. But it often gave a sense of deeper meaning and richness to what was created. And I'm grateful for Reverend Tovis for many things, for her coaching here, and for the beautiful sense of care, of pastoral care and sensitivity that she brought to each of you and often to me. I learned a new language. I couldn't just dig up my old sermons when I talked to you. That wasn't going to work. And I deepened by engaging in that. And in many ways, it was great to speak in the values I've always held in a more inclusive way in a room where that was expected. It was a great gift. I've healed some personal wounds in your midst, First, on the lightest note, I have heard over and over and over again throughout my career for the last 20 years before coming here that my sermons are way too heady, or that my camp director spirit was just over the top. That didn't happen here. You welcomed me wildly, and this looks like it's out of order. Okay.
Yes.
Secondly, my minstrel career has always been in a queer context, so I was nervous about being in a primarily straight community. Even knowing Carol, Susan, Doug, in spiritual communities, no matter what they claim about a welcome to LGBTQ people, they sometimes struggle, it's sometimes untrue, gender norms are sometimes unintentionally, strictly enforced. You welcomed me and my wife, and it was beautiful. Lastly, the religious community of my youth had a particular ire for UUs, which I had heard about and long since abandoned because I have UU friends, but still sometimes the words given to us as young people linger in the back of our minds. I have left that behind. The shadow has no more power over me. There is no doubt in my mind anymore that you are a community of love, and for me, love is where my faith and yours meet, right here in the center of all that is most true. And I'm grateful. You know, roses have seasons just like you and me, communities of all kinds, times of barrenness, times in the bud, times of blooming. From my point of view, this community right now, as Denise Levertov put it, is so much in the bud, and I'm excited for you. So go and transform not just yourselves, but at least the corner of the world you inhabit. And here's a blessing if you'll receive it. I know this rose will open. I know our fear will burn away. I know our souls will unfurl their wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know our fear will burn away. I know our souls will unfurl their wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
So from all of us in choir, may you find ways to inspire and keep the spirits higher wherever you are. You are. Oh, we're going to miss you.
It's signed.
Sorry.
There are notes all over it.
No.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm trying not to cry.
Can we do that again?
Where's Becky?
Can we do that one more
Where's
time?
Becky? I think it makes you forgetting their part.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, choir. What a beautiful gift.
Today I'm stepping in for David Kramer. He's our board president, and he's at his son's college graduation, so he asked me to represent him here today. Our lives are full of comings and goings, planned and unplanned. As individuals move into our community life, others leave us, moving away to new places, new experiences, and new opportunities. One such relationship is that of a minister to a congregation. We invite a minister to a shared ministry with us, and we covenant with them for a season, not a lifetime. Our contracts with Revs Tovis and Terri are coming to a planned end. Join me in the ritual of release using the responsive reading on the monitors. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, the final power and authority of a minister to serve a particular community comes not from on high, but from the congregation that chooses and invites their service. We enter into a covenant of shared ministry, and then we cooperate with one another, lay and ordained, in the ministry's unfolding. The congregation reads, Rev Tovis, we thank you for the worship ministry you have offered us. We offered you a free pulpit and challenged you to create meaningful worship and spiritual sustenance, to use the talents of the worship associates, artists, and others to create meaning and to remind us of our connections in the web of life and love. Thank you.
I hereby return the ministry of worship to your able hands. Use it to speak the truth in love to one another. May this loving truth be a source of joy and gladness for you.
We accept its power and freedom for ourselves and release you from your service as worship leader.
You welcomed me into the transitional moments of your lives, times of sorrow and joy. I hereby return the ministry of pastoral care into your able hands. Use it to comfort each other and to celebrate the milestones of your lives with compassion and care.
We thank you for the pastoral care you have offered us. We accept its power of compassion for ourselves and release you from your service as pastoral caregiver.
You asked me to serve in this time of transition as an administrator, and perhaps as chief question asker, as you sought your new way to help set you up for growth and greater success. I hope you will take what we have learned and continue forward. However, that's not in my hands. So I hereby return the administration of this congregation to you. May you guide yourselves with courage and wisdom into a strong and sure future.
We thank you for your professional leadership. We accept its power of vision and knowledge and release you from your service as professional leader.
In our time together, I have undoubtedly unintentionally hurt you or fallen short of your expectations. I am, after all, human. I ask your forgiveness.
In our time together, I have undoubtedly, unintentionally hurt you or fallen short of your expectations. I am, after all, human. I ask for your forgiveness.
We forgive and release you. As individuals and as a community, we have undoubtedly, unintentionally hurt you or fallen short of your expectations. We ask your forgiveness.
It is forgiven. We release with goodwill. Let any other bond between us be loosed. We release you from the entire covenant we held with each other. Go your way in peace, truth, and love.
And we release you, Rev Terri and Rev Tovis, with love and gratitude for the many gifts you've brought to us and for the time you've shared with us. We release each of you with our best wishes for your continued growth, your continued happiness, your continued humor, and your continued dedication to making the world a better place. With joy, sorrow, and gratitude, we release you.
Please join us at the reception following worship. At this moment of ending, may there be a good word, a blessing, to help us remember what we've so often forgotten. May the message be gently spoken and held in the spaces of ourselves, the fibers that hold all we need to maintain our gentleness, our courage, and our hope. Please join me in reading these different words for Extinguishing the Chalice on the screens. At this moment of ending, may the goodness we wish for ourselves and each other, this community, this ecosystem, planet, and stardust galaxy become such a part of us that we cannot tell where the blessing ends and we begin.
One more song from the choir before we go.
Beloveds, may love guide you on your journey forward. Joy meet you at every turn, and hope be your daily practice. May gratitude companion you, compassion embolden you, and open-hearted courage be your enduring choice. May peace challenge you, dear ones, generosity empower you, and may you know in every day that you are enough just exactly as you are, and you are not alone. Blessed be, amen, and farewell. Please make your way into the courtyard. We are going to exit that way, and we will meet you in the courtyard afterwards. Thank you so much.